Hello, everyone. This is Coach Alexis, and I am excited to have a successful Indiana business owner with us today, Miss Jaclyn Ricci from the
Hi.
LadyBug. Hi, Jaclyn.
Hi.
So, the LadyBug has seen steady growth since your founding in 2019, and we're excited to hear about your journey. Let's start with introducing yourself. Can you tell us a bit about your personal story?
Yeah, sure. My name's Jaclyn Ricci. I live here in Indiana. In 2018, the way we got started, my husband and I actually, we were broke. We needed some money. And I noticed a lot of women on a social media group called Zionsville Moms were really asking for pest control for like ants and spiders and things like that. And I kind of had this aha moment that I could answer the phones and my husband, if he could just get two or three jobs a week, we'd be able to afford things like groceries or going on vacations, cars, extra stuff like that. And so right before we're getting ready to launch this kind of side business, raccoon actually got in our house. Johnny was super excited to get it out. He was able to get it out and came down from the attic and was like, "Hey, I think I could do this for other people." And I was like, "Well, I don't really think animals get into people's houses, Johnny." But he convinced me to try it, and so I kind of re reworked the website before we launched. And now, here, 5 years later, we have 17 of us working at LadyBug and really have a successful business removing animals and bugs.
Awesome. What an awesome story. Okay, so what point in all of this did you gain the confidence that you guys could run a business?
Yeah. When we first started, I actually was doing estimating remodeling. So people were calling in and getting estimates for remodeling. My husband was a landscaper. So we really were out of our comfort zone. So I would go to work at this remodeling company and I had our phone number set up and I would just wait until lunchtime to call everybody back that had called in the morning. And at first, it was just a few calls here or there. But within 3 months, Johnny and I were forced to quit our jobs. Um, I said, okay, let's do this. We have some vacation time. Let's take a week vacation from our full-time jobs and see if we can find enough business for the week. Let's just try and see if that'll work. So when we decided to do it, I started filling up his schedule and we were completely full. By the time Monday had come of our vacation time, we were already full for the following week. So I said, well, let's tell him we're going to take another week off. If we get fired, it's just gonna we'll find new jobs. I mean, are already struggling anyways. Like, what's it gonna hurt? And so we called our bosses and we're like, hey, we're gonna need a second week off. And we were booked out 2 weeks straight by the time our vacation time was over. So we immediately went back and quit our jobs. Told them we can't even give you a notice. There's so much work, there's so much business out there that we're just going to have to leave immediately. So it was a really risky thing, but taking the vacation time to even see if it would work was kind of what we needed to make the jump. And like I said, after 3 months, we both quit our full-time jobs. And right as that was happening, actually, COVID happened. It was the start of COVID. And we have a son that's now 21, at the time was 14. And, school shut down, everything shut down. So he actually started learning the business as well. And we just really became a powerhouse pretty quickly.
That is amazing and sounds like great cause for confidence if there was so much business that you were
Yeah,
forced to
I
leave your
mean, there
job.
was just so much. I mean, even now there's times where we'll say, "Hey, we can only service this area because we're so booked out for so long." So there's never really been a time where I've been super worried because the business has just flowed in. We really I like to say we scratched a lottery ticket, but then we invested the money in it to make it a really strong business.
Awesome. That is so fantastic. So tell us more about the company name and how
Yeah.
you feel your company is helping people?
Yeah, so when I first decided we were going to do this, of course, again, it was just going to be a side business. I was on the phone with my mom and I said, I just got to pick out a name. And immediately out of her mouth, she said Ladybug. And the moment she said it, I was just like, oh, well, that's it. That's the name for sure. It just immediately resonated with me. And of course, people were at first giving my husband kind of a hard time, saying like, um, how do you feel about owning a business that's called LadyBug? And, he just was like, listen, it's so successful that I don't even care. And the name actually played a huge part in us being successful. This Zionsville Facebook group is how I really started the business. When I noticed that these women needed some help with bugs, I went on there and I was like, hey, I'm just trying this out. Can we come and to any of your guys' house and just play around and try it out, test out our products and see? And the women just were really encouraging and very uplifting. And we have a really great community of women in Zionsville that like to promote small businesses and help small businesses. And they just really kind of took me under their wing and helped me gain some traction for sure in that community.
Awesome. And great job, Mom, with coming up with the
Right?
name.
I know, right? It was a great idea and it's really stuck. And that's one of the things that when clients call, they're like, we love your name. It's just such a cute name. And I'm all kind of about women power and women ruling the world. So it really fit in perfect with my values.
Awesome. That's fantastic to hear.
Yeah.
All right. So, in all of this, starting your job, starting your business, leaving your job, growing and expanding so fast, what has been your biggest learning as a business owner?
Growing so fast. I could have 30, 40 employees right now if I wanted. There's so much work that I could hire that many people. And interesting enough, the wildlife industry is only 31 years old. When
Mm.
you really stop and think about that, it's kind of a really scary concept. There's not a lot of training involved in this industry. There's not a lot of things set up yet. Now, we do have national organizations that help us learn things and give us materials, but it's not much because it's only 31 years old. And so when you really start to think about the age of an industry, you've what I've noticed and what I see a lot of competitors out there doing is they're rushing to the market. You see Terminex, Orkin, they were just doing bug control until about 7 years ago when they realized there was a ton of money in wildlife. And so what did they do? They flooded the market with tons of employees, right? They saw the high demand for wildlife removal. So they hired a whole bunch of people. Well, when it comes to wildlife, you really have to have a long set of training for almost about a year because we go into different seasons of animals. Right now, if I hired somebody, they're not going to deal with raccoons until probably May of next year. Or bats. Their bats are starting to hibernate, so they won't deal with bats. And so for you to come on, you've got to have training for at least a year. One of the hardest challenges I've had to navigate is the growth. I could be growing, I could have a several state company, but you have to stop and train. And that's a hard lesson I had to learn really early on. I flooded the market with lots of employees and I didn't do the training like I should have. The training takes a long time. So, making sure when you start a business and understanding the processes that you have to go through, the SOPs that everybody needs to know in order for things to be consistent from technician to technician was really a challenge for me in the first few years that I had to kind of take a step back and say, okay, Jaclyn, you can't grow this fast, or you're not going to be able to be consistent across the board with all of your technicians, with all of your different locations. And so that's been a really hard challenge that I've overcome in the past few years and learning how to kind of just slow down because it can be really exciting. Johnny and I went from $60 in our account to being a $1 million company within 12 months. That's crazy, right? And that's exciting. And you want to bring people in and you want to keep moving and growing. And you have this idea in your head, oh, I'm going to be a national company so quickly. But if you don't take time to really understand your own processes and your values and giving that information to everybody in training, it's going to fall apart really quickly. And I went through that, and that was a very challenging time for me. But we did overcome it. And now we have a lot of processes in place, and we don't grow too quickly. We only grow by a certain amount of technicians per year because we understand how much we can train people at this point.
That makes sense. And it was quite a learning. Now, the industry being so new and all the other competitors jumping out there too quickly, you've learned a lot from that, but you've also grown really fast. What do you primarily attribute your growth to?
I have a lot to do with our growth. I mean, I've completely dedicated everything I've had for, this last year I've kind of gotten to step back a little bit and actually be a business owner and let other people do the work for us. But for 4 years, it's all my husband and I did. It's all we talked about. We worked, 15, 20-hour days. I would work till 2 or 3 in the morning, you know, hard, hard work and consistency. I never stopped. I just kept going. If there was a problem, I would figure out how to fix it and I would keep moving forward. And I see a lot of young business owners, not age-wise young, but just new to being an entrepreneur. And they're just not consistent. It's like anything in life, whether you're working out, in a relationship with somebody, anything in life, if you're not consistent about putting in the work, it's not going to go anywhere. And so I contribute a lot of our success to being consistent.
All right. So
Yeah.
important. Now, with learning so quickly, growing so quickly, understanding consistency, understanding the pace at which to grow, you've learned a lot. What would you say are some common misconceptions about running a business?
Um, when I first decided that we were going to quit our jobs, I was like, oh my gosh, finally I get to be like in control of myself. I'm the boss now. And now that there's 17 of us, I can truly tell you I'm not in charge. I may think I am, but my employees really run the show. They're the one. I still have people that I'm have to be accountable to. I think a misconception a lot is, oh, I'm not going to be accountable to anybody. But you have to still continue to be accountable to your clients, but more importantly, your team. Because without your team, you're only a one-man show with no retirement plan. And so a big misconception that I see from other people is that they think that they're just going to get to do whatever they want. And that's not how it is. I would like to speak different ways or have different feelings, but I can't express those. Sometimes I have to be the boss. And when being the boss actually means kind of taking a back seat to your team sometimes. So I see a lot of younger entrepreneurs feeling like they're going to kind of run the show, but in all reality, your clients and your team really are the people that kind of give you your guidelines and keep you accountable to things.
Awesome. Well, what, as you think about the next 1 to 2 years, with as much as you've grown, as much as you've learned, and supporting your team, as you think about the next 1 to 2 years, what would you say is your number one challenge or your focus area for achieving your goals?
Yeah, we have some really exciting stuff. We actually have not announced it yet on any of our platforms. We're based out of Lebanon, Indiana, so about 30 minutes northwest of downtown. We are going to be relocating two of our employees, my son and another employee, to Greenwood, in March of next year. So I'm very nervous. I have no idea how it's going to work out. Um, I've every opportunity I've gotten, another contributing success to LadyBug is that I'm willing to take risks. They're calculated, but I take a lot of risks with marketing or ideas, things like that. I'm a risk taker. And so this is going to be our biggest risk today that we're going to actually try to create another branch in Indiana. So it's going to be a big challenge. I'm really looking forward to it, but very nervous because I know it's going to come with its own set of challenges that I haven't even thought of. And that's kind of the most challenging part about being an entrepreneur is you can think all day long about every outcome, every possibility, and then you're left with the reality of when you actually get in this situation, there's so much that you haven't thought of yet. And so I'm sure we're going to have our own set of new challenges trying to develop another branch, but this is our first step in becoming more of right now we're kind of central Indiana and we're trying to really tackle the entire state. I would hope that in the next 2 years we have an established branch on the south side of Indy that's running just as well as the one on the north side of Indy.
Well, that is exciting news. And you're right.
Yeah.
Sometimes as an entrepreneur, we take calculated risks and then we find out we don't know what we didn't know and we
You're
grow from
right.
there.
Right. Yeah. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of new growth professionally and personally for a lot of us in the next 12 months as we embark on this new challenge.
Well, as you embark on this new challenge and grow in this different direction, it sounds like you've been the catalyst and the driving force behind a lot of your business, and the learnings have happened through you and with you as you've gone along. So, what advice do you have for business owners trying to do things without help from others?
Yeah, that's really it's difficult. I watch a lot of people in my industry. I call them one guy in a truck. He's answering the phone, he's doing the billing, he's talking to the clients, they're doing the work. When you're doing all of that, it's too overwhelming. And one of the first things that I learned in this business was starting to let go and understanding you have to get help. If you want to run a successful business, you have to have help from other people. It's not going to be 100%. If you can get that 80% out of somebody, you're good to go, right? And so, that's one thing that I would probably really encourage younger entrepreneurs that are getting in. When you realize that you need help, and you can't do it all on your own, you've got to take that risk and hire an employee. That's your first risk. Well, maybe your second, starting the business is your first, but a huge, huge risk is deciding to get an employee. And honestly, the sooner you can do it, the better because you're testing out your theory of if this concept of a business is actually going to work. And once you have an employee and you're still being profitable, then you all of a sudden you have an actual concept that's going to work, in the market. So that would definitely be some advice I would give is the moment you realize you need help, don't try to do it all on your own. You're going to burn yourself out really quickly. You need to find help and really test that theory to see if you're going to be able to move to that next phase of being an entrepreneur and actually having a profitable concept.
Awesome. Well, Jaclyn, it was a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And hopefully somebody out there hears my story and gets inspired. Take risk, go for it all because it's worth it for sure on the other end.
Definitely. Well, please tune in to the Indiana Business Spotlight podcast to hear the stories of other business owners.
Okay, thanks so much. You guys have a great day.